Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Layout Build series. Today we'll be getting some stuff done that we should have done in the first place, and we also start building a cool new kit for the layout. It's been a while since I ran the GP40-2L on the layout, so we're going to start off with that. One of the first things I'm doing is ballasting the turnouts. Just like with the rest of the track, I'll be using this ballast by Woodland Scenics. The goal is to go easy on the amount that you use, because you can easily put too much to where the turnout won't work properly. You can see that even with one pebble in the way, you can't move it at all. A little ballast at a time and constantly testing out the switch is what I do to get the job done. Something I come across, and you might come across as well, is the holes where you drill to get the feeder wires up to the track. To prevent the ballast from falling through that little hole, I plug it up with a little bit of tissue paper. Same goes for the other side. Before I ballast around this part, I'm going to have to glue this piece down since it shouldn't be sticking up like this. But since I have all my ballast nicely laid down, I'm going to go ahead and glue that first. The steps are the same as always. A good spray of isopropyl alcohol at first, then a 50-50 water and Mod Podge mix to glue it down. Just go easy on the gluing around the turnout, and check periodically as it dries to make sure it still moves. The next thing that I get done that some pointed out in the last episode is getting a piece of track laid here and paving the road over it. I was planning to do this when I added the next section of the layout, but it was kind of an eyesore to look at when it wasn't complete. So we're going to get that done now. I start by using a piece of 22-inch radius track to cut out the exact amount of road by sliding the hobby knife along the sides. Making sure to go all the way through to not potentially ruin the rest of the road. Then I can tear up the part where the piece of track will lay. piece of track fits in there perfectly. I'll be using the already painted flex track piece that was extra from my track work before. Before we do glue down the track, we must add some rail joiners. These small nails will hold down the flex track in place until the glue dries. As always, I use tacky glue for this. And here I'm putting those nails in place on the end, since that's really the only part that won't stay still. We also push those rail joiners into place. And now we wait for it to dry. Once it's dry, we can cut the excess track off with a Dremel. This time around, I'll be using this Dry Deck spackling, which is pink but does dry white. I got this at Walmart, and you can see it at the top there for $8.97. And I also get my sandpaper here as well. All I do need at first is my putty knife and some pop dot tape. This is how I cut and laid the tape on the tracks, with the smaller pieces cut to size that go in between the rails. Before I do get started, I wash my putty knife to make sure none of that old putty that's dried messes with the new one. This pink stuff is a little bit drier than the regular DAP, sort of like kinetic sand, but still works perfectly in the end. Now it's a matter of getting it down and covering up those railroad ties. I do smooth it out a little bit more after this, but not too much because it will be all sanded smooth anyways. 24 hours later, it's not pink anymore and we can now sand it smooth. First up is removing the pop dot tape. Then I scrape away any excess putty that got on the tracks. We do also scrape along the inside of the rails, so the flanges of the wheels on the trains and freight cars go through smoothly. Then we sand it, but we also consider that we still want a gentle incline of the road that goes up to the tracks, which means we don't want to sand too much. Of course, we do always vacuum in between rounds of sanding. Now we finally have a nice paved road over the tracks. Before I do paint, I check and see how a covered hopper goes through it to make sure that there's no hiccups. And I also wipe it all gently with a damp piece of paper towel to get all the dust off. The same color is used, which is country gray. You can see that it's not 100% perfect, but I like the small bumps or lines that you may see, because no road out there is perfect, at least not after it's been used over and over. To add a little bit more variety to the color of the road, I'm going to be painting the crossing in an asphalt color. To get that color, I mix this matte pavement with the country gray. Here is the end result. I do like the way it came out, but there is still some weathering to do to make it look a little bit more realistic, which we'll do later down the line. I did barely do some dry brushing that you might be able to notice, just to signify some tires going through it. I did also add some sand there on the right under the Crown Victoria. And further to the right here, you can also see that I've laid down some pop-dot tape, and that's because that'll be my next area to get done. As small as it may seem, adding the track and paving over it for a proper crossing really does help this area feel more complete. The ballast I'll be using for this track is this gray blend by Woodland Scenics. It's a little bit different from the ballast I've been using, because this track is technically a mainline. I'll be skipping along pretty fast here not to be repetitive, because it's all the same process that I've just shown. And here it is. The ballast is done up to the top of the curve, and the sand and the pink putty is all dried. I did want to add something a little bit different to the sand, so I made some tire marks from a truck while the sand was drying. All I did was roll the front two tires of this dump truck in it to get the effect. Fast forward a little more and we now have a parking lot painted and the sand filled in around it. I think it looks cool with the construction equipment. Maybe I'll make it a rental place for them or something like that. Let me know in the comments what you think. So at this point I've done a lot of touching up with spots that I may have missed before, like with the sand, ballast, and even the painting. I'm really taking my time with this, as you can tell, but it's paying off because I do love the way it looks so far. Next up on the agenda is the new Walthers kit that'll be going onto the layout. Time to open it up and see how painful this may or may not be. So we got the kit itself, which is all white. Warranty info, the decal sheet, which is really nice because it does give you many options. I'll probably end up going with the commercial propane. And lastly, the instructions, which are always stressful to look at for the first time. Next is to lay it all out before painting to see if anything should be a different color. And if you are wondering, these are all little propane bottles. You do get a lot of them. I think I'm going to try my best to make it close to how they have it on the package. For the paint, I'll be using a flat white by Rust-Oleum. Even though the kit is already white, it does come in a more glossier finish, and I want it to be a flat white, just like how they would be in real life. The pieces in the top left corner are getting sprayed with a tan camo color, because those are the small little buildings that they included in the kit. Now to put it all together. And here is another look at the instructions. Now it's time to snip those pieces off all those sprues. I'll be starting with the main part of the build, which is the two tanks. Before we do glue it, we must trim any excess plastic off. Now it's time to glue them together with my Tamiya extra thin cement. They do kind of look like some kind of submarine at this stage. Next up are the 4 stands. When I can, I always like to add a little bit more glue to make sure it's really secure. Once all these stands are on, we can now put those caps on the top. Pretty good detail on those, I must say. I won't be doing the piping in this episode, but they will come in the next one when I know where I want them laid out. These small pipes will be added because they just go on top of the tanks. They are a little finicky to get on, but not too bad. These may end up going if they aren't needed, but we'll see. Next up are the handrails and the platforms. First platform is on, now to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Same with the railing. I do decide to stop at this point since the piping goes on the ground and I don't have an area ready for that just yet. The piping part of it shouldn't be too bad to do, but I will take my time with it to make sure it does look realistic. I'll probably look up some real life examples to get some inspiration. Overall, I will be going for this look on the box, unless I do find some good examples online. I did end up putting together those little buildings that they included, but none of them actually included a rooftop, so I'll have to figure something out, or maybe I might not use them at all. So we are coming to the end of the episode with my little buddy here. I'm pretty happy with what we got done. It was sort of just filling in the gaps. But progress is progress, and I'm still happy with what we got done. In the next episode, I do have a lot more planned, and a lot more stuff that I've never done before on the channel, so it may work, it may not, we'll have to see. And as usual, I do appreciate everybody that watches my videos. So thank you again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next episode.